There's one thing we got to be extremely careful, and because we all have problems with the right choice of words, you know. I hope you guys realize, gentlemen, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you realize that the word nationalism has a slightly different meaning in the United States of America than it has in continental Europe. Okay? And I'm very careful with those words, and I wouldn't like to start now the course in grammar and the course in the etymology of words, although this is my specialty, I'll tell you, and I'm quite proud of it. And my friends, my colleagues, my comrades in the United States of America, they use in a generic fashion this word nationalism, meaning white nationalism. But you can't use that word in continental Europe, because there is no such thing as European nationalism. This is a nonsense, lexical nonsense, and I know what I'm talking about. Okay? I will not regret my words. It's lexical nonsense. Why is that? Because unfortunately, or for that matter, if you wish, fortunately, we have way too many ethnic groups, too many nationalists in continental Europe. Well, look, let's be honest, folks. Yes, now I remember what Tess said a while ago. You just go further up a little bit and you have the Irish nationalists, okay? My question is, you're quite right, they get some media time, they get, they get some respect. But are they racialists first, or are they nationalists? Because in America, racialism and nationalism is almost used like a synonym, if you see what I mean. Not so much in continental Europe, or for that matter, not so much between the IRA and the British, okay? You have a nice flag here, which is correct. Let me make another digression. I wonder, how long is this flag going to still be valid? And what does that mean, even nowadays, when you say, I'm proud of being British, I'm proud of being English, given the fact that more than 10% of people who live in this country are of non-white origin. They can be naturalized, they can have a passport. The Germans have a very nice, almost pejorative word, but still politically correct. They call the Turks and the people who recently acquired their German citizenship, and for that matter, people of non-European origin, there's about 10 million of them, right, in a country of 80 million people. And they call them Passportdeutsche, passport Germans. In other words, they just acquire their passport, they acquire their legal, their citizenship, their legal rights, what have you. But in terms of their destiny, in terms of their racial consciousness, they belong to a different turf, exactly. And I always put on the first place my gene pool, if you wish. I probably may be a little bit uncomfortable with the word race, because this word race has been subject to semantic distortions by our liberal masters of discourse, what's been going on at the BBC over the last 40 years. But by and large, this is something we have to admit, and this is something we have to fight against. And I'll be very straightforward. Nationalism, in its present, or rather in its 100 years modality, has had a devastating impact on all European peoples. We have to admit it, whether I like it or not. You know what happened with the English and the Irish, and the English and the Germans, with the Poles and Germans, with the Serbs and Croats. And again, and I'm always afraid that I'm sometimes repeating myself. The fact of the matter is, and I hate to say that, particularly in Eastern Europe, those petty nationalisms, and I'm using the qualified petty, let's say those nationalisms in plural, they are conflictual. They are not affirmative in a sense that they're not excluding the other with a capital O. They're very conflictual, and they're bad. They've had tremendously negative impact on all European peoples. At this stage, we simply don't have time, to go into those murderous wars, like Serbs against Croats, like the Irish against the English, or like, for instance, the Catalans or the Basques against the Castilians, or, for instance, my friends from Flandria, Flanders, it's part of Belgium, they don't like the Walloons for many reasons, okay? They're beginning to realize that we have to bridge this gap and actually define our nationalism, but with a different connotation. We are becoming a minority. We are less than 7% of the world population. And I just want to make sure, and this is what I'm working on, let's just bridge our gaps let's do a cultural war, let's do a cultural struggle, and of course we'll retain our identity. We've got to be proud of our heritage, regardless if it's James Joyce or Samuel Beckett or you name it, or if it's Tate Gallery in England. Well, certainly we'll harp on that because this is your heritage. There are very few people who have that in the world, okay? The Croats also have their cultural heritage, but not at the expense of excluding the other, you know. Because so far, over the last century, I have to admit it, you know. I have to admit it, because I know exactly what's crossing the mind of those multicultural theorists and academics at the London School of Economics, or for that matter, anywhere else here. Those liberals say, aha, guys, here are Serbs and Croats, look at the Irish and the English, they're whacking each other like crazy. This is exactly what's crossing their mind. So we are serving their purpose. So ask yourself a question, cui bono, who serves them, who benefits from this? So again, I'm concluding this portion. Let's work on bridging those gaps. However much, however strong, however brutal those cleavages, those differences may have been between the Irish and the English, between the Basques and the Catalans who are about to secede, or about, let's say, the Tyroleans in northern Italy who would also like to secede and join the matrix country in Germany. These are all tiny little things. Probably they sound too academic, but they're deadly serious. You saw it firsthand what happened to two similar peoples in ex-Yugoslavia, Croats and Serbs. I'll tell you quite frankly, is there a difference in phenotypes? Is there a different language? Yes, possibly, but a person like you, like somebody coming from abroad, and observing Serbs and Croats, he can't tell any difference other than with different insignia, and possibly, yes, they worship the Christian Orthodox gods, the Serbs, and the Croats are Catholics. That's the only tangible difference you can see. But in terms of gene pool, again, this is something, again I repeat, we have to work on that because we simply have no time. We are running out of time. We have to bridge the differences, and I possibly couldn't care if a guy of our kinsman, if he lives in Santiago de Chile, or for that matter Buenos Aires, or on the Falkland Islands for that matter, or if he lives in Aberdeen in Scotland, or if for that matter if he lives in Kharkov in Russia. You know, we have a common front. There's still lots of us, but we just gotta, you know, those petty disputes, historical disputes. Always ask yourself a question: who benefits from it? And we know deadly well who has benefited from those things. So before